Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Derek here.
Eric here.
How you doing, Eric?
Good. How are you doing?
We've got a lot of stories to get through, so I want to jump right in. Jimmy Kimmel and Quinta Brunson have made up. And they made up on his show. So I'm not sure they needed to make up, but I want to sort of lay out what happened. Remember on the Emmys, Jimmy Kimmel and Will Arnett did a bit where Jimmy drank too much backstage.
Had too many margaritas.
Too many margaritas, needed to be dragged out on stage. But what was interesting about the bit was he actually stayed splayed out while she accepted her award.
She literally had to step over him to give her award. And of course, people were upset saying, this is, white male privilege. This guy literally laid in her spotlight, and she had to climb over him to accept the award she earned.
She earned it, and it was weird because in the shot initially of her winning the award, they were trying to get Jimmy in the shot because the bit was still running its course, and then they zoomed in on her, and she was allowed to have her moment. She also handled it pitch perfectly. She sort of wove him in. She didn't seem upset by it or rattled. She sort of made a joke.
And they're friendly with each other.
And they're friendly.
So she was on his show.
She was on his show, and Jimmy is always like this. So Jimmy is kind of an emotional guy. Sometimes he'll do those monologues where he gets
a little
teary-eyed and things like that. And he does have a sincere mode, and he goes into it here. And listen to his apology to Quinta.
That was a dumb comedy bit that we thought it would be funny. I lost, and then I drank too much, and I had to be dragged out on the stage. And then people got upset. They said I stole your moment, and maybe I did, and I'm very sorry if I did do that. I'm sorry I did do that, actually. And also, the last thing I would ever want to do is upset you because I think so much of you.
It is very kind of you to say that. I honestly was in such a moment of just having a good time. Like, I won my first Emmy. I was up there, like, happy.
This is textbook to me. I wanted to listen to have the audience sort of hear the apology because he handles it so well. There's a little catch in his throat when he says, I want you to know that I sincerely apologize to you. You can hear that he actually means it, but then he couches it in a joke at the end and blames it on Will Arnett, and she plays it off. And off we go. So the Twitter outrage, fine, but they have now quelled this, and it's okay.
They're good. And I do appreciate that when he was apologizing, he said, you're talking about stealing her moment. He goes, I'm sorry if I did that. And then he goes, I'm sorry, I did do that.
Yes.
That people like, I'm sorry if people were offended is the non-apology. And he realized, I think it sounded like, oh, I'm sorry if you think I took your moment. And he goes, no, I did take your moment, and I'm sorry.
Yes. He sort of, it's perfect. It's perfect because he's sort of taking accountability. When you say, I'm sorry you were upset, or I'm sorry if I offended you, you're undermining the apology. And he catches himself and he says, no, I just want to give an apology. I took your moment, and we're going to rectify the situation here so we can move on. This is how you apologize. I think Jimmy Kimmel and Quinta Brunson sort of did it perfectly. Do I think Twitter sort of being outraged on her behalf was necessary in the first place? Not really. But listen, they pointed out something that could have been going on subconsciously. And that's what Twitter was sort of outraged about. Jimmy clearly didn't intentionally sort of try to steal her moment. He likes her. They're in the comedy circles together. But he might have unintentionally done something that was, sort of baked in white privilege. And I sometimes roll my eyes at this, but that could have been operating on some level in the way this played out. And so now we've addressed it.
He didn't know who was going to win. It could have, not been her. But it's still, the point is kind of there. Like, I'm going to do this bit. And it was just a bad bit.
It was a bad bit.
It was a bad bit.
It was a bad bit, and it sort of wasn't worth it. The bit stunk. I mean, even on the page, he and Will Arnett, it sort of makes me think a little less of them, that they were backstage thinking this is gonna go over really well, because in the best of circumstances, let's say he doesn't lay there and they get up, the bit was a stinker anyway. And she comes and accepts her award.
Their track record's pretty good in comedy, so you try things and they don't work.
Yeah, listen, and I had said yesterday, and I sort of want to qualify what I said, that this has raised her profile. I mean, now more people know the name Quinta Brunson because of this controversy. And I sort of said that as, is that a good thing? I don't think it's a good thing. I'm not happy she was embroiled in this controversy. This is my apology, because I think it sounds kind of flip to say well, she should be thankful that there's this controversy. No. She shouldn't. It was her moment, and it is distracted from the centrality of what she wanted to sort of convey to the world, which is, I'm a good writer, I got a great show, and let's celebrate me. And that wasn't the story. It was more about Jimmy Kimmel lying there on the floor and whether she was offended or not. And that's unfortunate. But I do think this moment is perfect. I really enjoyed it, and
Honestly, I think she will probably have more chances to make speeches.
I agree
I don't see
completely.
this being her last award. So,
and I think it's like it puts a nice bow on it. The problem with a lot of controversies is there's never any resolution. This one to me has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Jimmy Kimmel ended it. They are fine with each other. Twitter should also be fine with this. Let's move on. Let's move on to
Bhad Bhabie.
Bhad Bhabie.
You love this.
Mm-hmm.
Bhad Bhabie. Danielle Bregoli is going to be speaking at Oxford Union. It's a debating society. This is, I see you seething right now.
Yeah.
She has been invited as a speaker. Some of the previous speakers at Oxford Union, 4 presidents, Reagan, Nixon, Carter, and Clinton, Queen Elizabeth, the Dalai Lama, Malcolm X, Albert Einstein,
Billy Joel
and Elton John, Shakira, but some very accomplished, prestigious people.
Yes.
And so you think they are trolling.
Yeah, so the Oxford, I want to clarify really quickly. The Oxford Union is an association, a debating society that's affiliated with Oxford. This doesn't mean she's a Rhodes Scholar or anything like that.
Of course not.
But she's been invited to speak, and what they do is they mix the prestigious with the, sort of less prestigious. Sometimes they bring in someone that they just want to make a controversial headline. In 1996, I believe, shortly after the OJ verdict, in the criminal case, they brought OJ out. So they clearly like to court controversy in certain ways. They brought out Marine Le Pen, who is the far-right nationalist in France. So they are not shy about this. I do think it's interesting to bring Danielle Bregoli to a debating society because she's actually good with her words.
I don't think they're trolling.
What do you think is the point of this?
Because you look at the other people they've had in the past, presidents, musicians, royalty, scientists, all very accomplished in their field. Could you argue that Danielle Bregoli is not accomplished in her field?
She's a leading light of OnlyFans?
Yeah. Didn't you say she said she made, what, $50 million?
Yeah, apparently reports are that she made $50 million on that
As
platform.
someone who had a weird viral meme on a daytime talk show, the Cash Me Outside, she parlayed that into a fairly successful rap career. She had some hits. Then she went into OnlyFans. She's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
She's clearly smart. She might not be a Rhodes Scholar or whatever, but she knows what she's doing, and she's done it well.
She's managed her career. I will say the road is littered with, chicken tetrazzini memes and hide your kids, hide your wife, who don't turn that into actual fame and celebrity. And Danielle Bregoli, to her credit, took a moment on Dr. Phil where she said, how about that into a real career? I'll give her credit for that.
Monetizing virality and an online presence. Not
I
many
think
people are better.
I think you just wrote the copy for the brochure they're going to hand you.
I mean, not many people that have done that have done it better than her. And I think a lot of people aspire to that now, especially younger people who are college students.
Yeah. Do you think, though, Danielle Bregoli will be... I agree with you.
Because your argument is like, you think she's not smart enough to be there, right?
I think...
you don't want to say it, but that's what you're thinking.
I think it's strange to have her in the context of anything with the name Oxford in it. It is strange.
But do you think it's strange to have Billy Joel or Elton John or Shakira there? Who are entertainers. I'm not saying anything about, they're very smart, talented people, but they're accomplished in their field.
Yeah, accomplished in their field.
Danielle Bregoli is accomplished in her field.
Her field is the strangest one to be accomplished in. I mean, music and politics are what you traditionally associate with sort of, higher esteem in society than OnlyFans and virality on the internet. But you're right. In her little quarter of the world, she's important. What I worry about is when Danielle Bregoli, who has found some success in these realms, goes to Oxford Union, you're expected to sort of convey in a TED Talk kind of way your journey. I don't know that she has that gear. I'd love to see it. Maybe she does.
I would love to see that.
Maybe she gets up there with a PowerPoint, a laser pointer, and she's able to sort of calmly explain her rise to success in the terms that you laid out. Like, if she's able to do that and say,
she's like, "Good evening, Oxford."
Leveraging fame in the age of virality. If she does something like that, I'll be impressed.
But
I'll give her that opening.
However she words it or says it, the point is still there.
The point is there. You're right.
Maybe this is not a troll.
Yeah.
How many people?
I do think this will be a popular Oxford Union. I think you bring in the sort of leading lights of the political world. It's not as relevant to people in terms of a headline. They've grabbed a headline. Now, what they do with it, and whether it's a laughingstock or whether it's something that we sort of pause and think about, maybe she does deserve to be on that stage.
So you're saying you think Oxford Union's trying to get a viral moment out of inviting her?
Yes.
So maybe they're not as good at it as she is.
It's
so maybe they could give her some
possible.
Pointers on how to leverage her appearance there.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious to see.
You sell her short.
I do, and I shouldn't do that. And you're right. I'm going to give Danielle Bregoli her chance. I want to know the format. Like, is she going to get up there and speak? What she is best at is sort of banter. Like when Dr. Phil took her on, what was interesting about that moment to people was that she was entirely fearless. Dr. Phil is a celebrity. She went on his talk show, and the mode that most people are in is like, oh, Dr. Phil's here to discipline me. And
they defer to him, and she did not.
I need to look down at the ground and be yelled at and scolded with sort of, psychobabble. She didn't do that. She stood up to him, and now it's spawned a trend of more people do that. But she started that when she said, catch me outside. How about that? I want to see her on stage, and I want to see her in a combative mode. In a debate. I mean, it's a debating society. That would be interesting to me. Now, who should she debate? Do you have any ideas? If you have Danielle Bergoli up there, do you bring in Dr. Phil so they can have round two?
No. But whoever debates her is going to say, catch me outside, because they know 100%. That triggers her now. She's trying to prove that she's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an easy way to needle her.
To rattle her cage. We'll have to see. I think it'll be fascinating. I'm more interested in the Oxford Union than I've been in years. So since Richard Nixon, old videos of Richard Nixon there.
Win-win for everybody.
We'll have to see. So I want to move on to my favorite story of the week. And it's only Thursday, but I'm putting it out there that nothing is going to top this. So in the world of professional chess, there is a huge scandal right now. And we have to set this up a little bit. Magnus Carlsen is a Norwegian 31-year-old guy who is the grandmaster of the world. He's the Michael Jordan of chess.
The Tom Brady, LeBron James of chess.
It's incredible. He had a 53-game winning streak, which in chess is simply incredible. In any sport, it's incredible, but he is winning all of these matches in a row. He's so far ahead of the competition that it was seen as no one can beat this guy.
Yeah.
Certainly not any lesser competition. Well, he went to a tournament called the Sinkfield Cup and lost to an American, a 19-year-old American who was the last ranked player in the tournament, and his name was Hans Niemann. Niemann beat him, and Magnus Carlsen left the tournament and tweeted, I'm withdrawing and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to get in trouble. He tweeted a video that indicated there might be some sort of scandal brewing underneath the surface. Well, Twitter went crazy and they said, oh my God, Hans must have cheated. Now, to play in the tournament.
So how do you cheat at chess?
How do you cheat at chess? Well, you can cheat several ways. You can have a buzzer on you that sort of is connected to what's called a chess engine, which is a computer that tells you the optimal move in any given situation. But he was frisked. So Hans Niemann they checked for wires. He had no wires on him when he played. There's a long video of them actually playing the match. So the speculation, and it is purely speculation, it's unfounded, is that he stuffed beads of some sort into his butt.
Some sort?
The
anal
name.
Beads.
Anal beads. And he connected them to some sort of Bluetooth where it would buzz and give him direction on how to play Magnus Carlsen. Now, he's beat Magnus Carlsen twice, but he's also been kicked out of chess.com for a cheating scandal. So people are saying, you're a cheater, and Magnus is Magnus, and this shouldn't count.
Even Elon Musk has commented on this. Elon tweeted, talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one can see because it's in your butt.
It's amazing. Elon loves this. This is like a perfect story for a guy like Elon Musk. It's got chess. It's highbrow meets lowbrow. That's who Elon Musk is.
Technology. It's
beautiful.
But what if this guy did not cheat?
Yeah.
This is like, you remember?
What if he's Bobby Fischer, man?
Remember when Marissa Tomei won the Oscar for My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
Like 30 years ago. And everybody said, oh, they accidentally read the wrong name. Like
Jack
there are
Palance.
all these theories about how there was a mistake because nobody could believe she was actually good enough to win, even though she was great in that movie.
She's phenomenal. And in retrospect, people love that
and it was really hurtful to her. So what if this guy's the Marissa Tomei of chess? He's like, no, I just got really good and had a moment.
Yeah, and he's like, how do I disprove this? They frisked me. What am I supposed to do? Well, they didn't cavity search you. And he thinks it's absurd. He has said, look, you're only saying this because I beat Magnus Carlsen. No other reason. There's been no proof that I had any
vibrating
Bluetooth,
anal beads.
Prostate massager, people are saying.
Every time it was his turn, he'd go, ooh.
People don't want to accept it. Yeah. So people are watching the video. There's a long video to see whether he's King 5, if there's any sort of jump when he's making these moves. But it's fascinating. Chess is like back on the map. The Queen's Gambit was a huge COVID phenomenon, and now you got the King's butthole. And it's just, to me, this is one of the
all your
greatest
favorite things.
It's all my favorite things merging together because I think chess doesn't get enough credit. I think it is a sport. There's an endurance element to it. I haven't been this excited since Bobby Fischer. I really haven't.
What about it besides chess do you like? Moving on. This is not as fun. Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, has sent 2 busloads of migrant workers to Kamala Harris's house because she said the border was secure, everything was good. He said, within hours or day of that being announced, over 100 migrant workers had crossed the border. So he This is a political stunt, sending them.
A huge stunt. Sends them to D.C. to her doorstep.
Yeah. Let's unpack all this.
Yeah, so like you said, she took a lot of flack when she said the border's secure, tried to sort of, quell the hysteria over we have a crisis at the border. And Greg Abbott, to his credit, I mean, he is the governor of a state that does deal directly with whatever is going on at the border. And he's saying, look, if you want to tell people this, you deal with the problem. The reason I hate this is this is pure political theater.
It's using human beings
as chess pieces. These are humans on a bus that he has shipped to Kamala Harris so he could get a headline.
And this is, the hypocrisy of politics is, when people were protesting outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house or when he was having dinner, they're like, oh, you have no privacy at your own home that people can protest. And then you send 2 busloads of people to her house.
It's crazy. Now, what Greg Abbott would say is, look, all these cities also get on their, sanctuary cities when they stand on their soapbox and they say, we will accept all of your migrants. He's saying, okay, here they are. He's sort of calling them on their sort of grandstanding about the issue. But
he can do that because
tasteless is that they're people.
That's
These are
the thing.
humans.
If these small towns, these border towns in Texas, are being overwhelmed by hundreds of people coming in, that is a legit problem, and there are ways to address that.
And so forth.
And if you want to call out Kamala Harris, if you disagree with her, if whatever, but these are humans. These are people who are there in the first place, trying to make money to support their families.
Yes.
And to ship them off to D.C. and then now, and Kamala Harris has enough money that she could send them somewhere else if she wanted. She can find places for them to stay, but these are still human beings, and that's...
I agree. That's what's sort of gross about the whole spectacle is that you lose the human element when you just say, here you go, and then he gets to tell his constituents, look at what I did. How funny. Well, it's not funny. I mean, even if you want to secure the borders, if you want to build walls, I understand the political differences on this issue. It is a very sort of, there's a feeling in Texas and certain places that these states don't really understand what we're going through. And I have some sympathy for that sentiment. But this is not the way to handle it. This is just not the way to do it.
I guess the analogy of this would be, all the people that are so divided over Roe versus Wade and the abortion issue right now. Mm-hmm. Imagine if, Kamala Harris sent a busload of pregnant teenagers to Greg Abbott's house. That's disgusting.
It's just gross.
Yeah.
It's coarse. And, to their credit, these migrants got off the bus and they were helped. They were led to sort of, I believe, a church or some sort of facility to get their immediate needs at least met. But playing chess with humans in this way to score political points, I just have no patience for. I think
it dehumanizes them. It's like these are just illegals on a bus. Like, no, these are people. Like whatever your feelings are about people crossing the border or how these towns deal with it, this is not the way.
Right. And the problem is his constituents will love this.
Of course they will. That's why he did it. That was the whole point.
And until there's less demand for this kind of conduct, you'll continue to see politicians behave in this way because there's just an overall coarseness in the political sort of discourse that there's a demand for it and there will be a supply. That's how I see it. And that's sort of the sad situation we're in. Let's move to a happier story.
Somebody doing something positive.
This is an incredibly cool story. So the founder of Patagonia is a guy named Yvan Chouinard. He's always been a sort of eccentric guy. This is a guy who, when he founded the company, I believe in the early 70s, he lived out of a beat-up car. He ate cat food because it was cheap. He's sort of an eccentric guy, and he was really into the outdoors. So Patagonia, everyone knows
Patagonia represents that. As a clothing brand, its whole thing is outdoorsiness, and that's their whole thing.
And he lives it.
He lives that.
So now he was thinking about his succession plans. He is in his 80s now. The company's worth about $3 billion. It's a profitable company. It brings in about $100 million of revenue or profit a year. And he's saying, what do I do with this? He has raised his kids to also believe the ethos of we shouldn't have billionaires. And the kids are on record saying every billionaire in society is a policy failure. That's just their belief. They say no human, single families, dynasties should amass this kind of wealth. So what he did, a lot of people sort of donate their money. You have Warren Buffett who says, hey, give away your billions over time. But they give it away over time and they give it to charitable causes. The problem with that is there's no engine to keep feeding it. You just make the money and then you give it to a charitable cause. He's trying to bridge this. He's saying, I'm going to make the company still be profitable, but all of the profits are going to go towards climate change and nonprofit.
Everything that's not invested back into keeping the company going is going to climate change.
And it's fascinating.
I love this because, it's a... people who disagree with climate change, whatever, like, I respect the guy's literally putting his money where his mouth is. Like, he's like, this is what I believe and this is what I'm doing.
And they're paying taxes for it. He did not do this in a tax beneficial way.
Yeah, this seems very sincere.
Yeah.
He said they're talking about different ways they could try and do this. They said that one way would be to sell the company. But he goes,
now you got $3 billion. What do you do with it?
He said, we couldn't be sure a new owner would maintain our values or keep our team of people around the world employed, which is a very practical
a noble
concern
cause.
because you can't trust the person you're giving it to will believe the same things you do.
Sure. And once you hand over the keys, they get to run it as they see
However
fit.
they see
They can
fit.
run it into the ground. They can continue your values. You just don't know.
Yeah. And he goes, or we could have taken the company public, but that would have been a disaster. So
it's a disaster to go public, he thinks, because then the shareholders dictate what happens, and you have to serve their interests. So if it's owned by the public, you have to go maximize profits, and you can't necessarily do the social things you want to do, the beneficially social things. Now, what's interesting is people are saying, how will this work? Because if the people working there have no financial incentive to make money because all of the money goes into nonprofit causes, there's a question as to whether it will continue to drive the engine. A lot of people think capitalism is built because of you can amass this kind of wealth.
Yeah.
I think it's a great experiment, and I think it actually could work. I think if you get the right people with the right values,
to that point, that's the thing. The people who work at Patagonia, like we said, this is not just some random, he'd not just decided that climate change was his issue. This is something he's always cared about. The company is kind of built around the importance of the outdoors.
Right.
I imagine if you work for them, you kind of know that.
Yeah.
And you probably believe it yourself.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil the outdoors. That's your whole brand.
Yeah.
Right? And as you see it crumbling with climate change, you think, well, this is part of us being a relevant brand, so it's actually part and parcel
I don't
of the
think it
company
means that people can't, that employees can't get raises or anything, because they said all that's going to be baked into this. Like, they will deduct what they need for the company.
Yeah.
Everything else goes to climate change.
Yeah.
So if it's like, okay, well, we need to take this much more for employee raises, that's fine.
It's just fascinating. Now, some people are seeing this as a chess move. There was a guy, I think, a couple years ago named Barside who did this, but he had very right-wing values. He put all of his money from his company, I think, $100 million in revenue or something, or billions of dollars, towards anti-climate change. And so Yvon Chouinard said, well, if they're going to do this and sort of have this profit-making engine that is geared towards causes that are hurtful to my company, then I need to create something that will be helpful to my company. So we'll have to see how this plays out. A lot of people are watching it closely to see whether a private trust can run entirely in a nonprofit way, but still generate enough profit to continue to feed those goals. It'll be fascinating to watch. I think it's a very, very cool story. So that'll do it for us today. We will see you tomorrow.
All right, bye.